Welcome back to Mr. DuPage's classroom. This lesson is from my Algebra 1 class. It is lesson 4.6, absolute value equations and inequalities. First thing, to solve an absolute value equation in the form the absolute value of A is equal to B, where A represents a variable expression and B is greater than 0, we will solve for A would be equal to positive B and A would be equal to negative B. Because if you think about an absolute value, if we talk about the absolute value, say, of 3, if we are talking about the absolute value of, say, x is equal to 3, right? Well, x could be positive 3, because the absolute value of positive 3 is 3, or x could be negative 3, because the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. That is why A would be equal to positive B and negative B. All right, now in order to actually work through these problems, the first thing we need to do is to get the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to add 3. I have the absolute value of A is equal to 8. So in this case, just like when we were talking about up here with the absolute value of x is 3, A would actually equal 8 and A would equal negative 8. Okay? On to B. I have the absolute value of h plus 2 is equal to 1, so I would subtract 2. The absolute value of h would equal negative 1. Now, is there any possible way that I could have the absolute value become a negative? There is not when it's just the absolute value. That's why in the words up top, up here in our little explanation, it says that b has to be greater than 0. In this case, negative 1 is not greater than 0, so there is no solution to the absolute value of h being equal to negative 1. On to C. First step, I want to get the absolute value by itself, so I'll divide by 3. So it's the absolute value of n is equal to 5. Here again, n would be equal to positive 5, and n would be equal to negative 5. Okay? On to D. The first step in this case, I have 3 times the absolute value of w minus 2. If I treat that just like if it was written as 4 equals 3w minus 2, my first step would be to add 2, right? So I'd get 6 equals 3w, divide by 3, and 2 would equal w. I'm going to do the exact same thing in this case, okay? I'm going to treat it just like there isn't an absolute value there. I just want to keep the absolute value going with it, so I'll add 2 to both sides. That'll give me 6 is equal to 3 times the absolute value of w. Divide that by 3. 2 equals the absolute value of w. Well, if 2 equals the absolute value of w, then w would equal positive 2, and w would equal negative 2. All right, moving on. Solving absolute value equations. First, get the absolute value expression alone like we did above, and then split into positive and negative parts to find 2 answers. So we're going to have to work through this the same way. We need to get the absolute value by itself. Well, in A, the absolute value is already by itself. So what I'll do there is take 3c minus 6 will be equal to positive 9. And 3c minus 6 will be equal to negative 9. Just like I did on the problems above, when I got the absolute value by itself, I had, like, say, in problem C here, I had the absolute value of n is equal to 5. Well, it would be n equals 5 and n equals negative 5. Well, the absolute value in A down here is actually around an entire expression. So the entire expression will be equal to positive 9, and the entire expression will be equal to negative 9. I'm going to go ahead and add 6. So 3c will be equal to 15. Divide by 3. C will be equal to 5. Here again, I'm going to add 6. 3c will be equal to negative 3. Divide by 3. C will be equal to negative 1. Okay? B, what's my first step? Well, I already have the absolute value by itself, so I can just set the expression 9 minus 2x is equal to positive 11, and 9 minus 2x is equal to negative 11. I can subtract 9, so negative 2x is equal to 2. Divide by negative 2, x would equal negative 1. Okay? Here I can subtract 9, negative 2x would equal negative 20. Divide by negative 2, x would equal positive 10. All right. Moving on to C. Again, my absolute value is already by itself, so I can just set 2a minus 4 equal to 10 and 2a minus 4 equal to negative 10. Add 4. 2a would equal 14. Divide by 2, and a would equal 7. Again, here I just add 4. So 2a would be equal to negative 6. Divide by 2. And a would equal negative 3. All right? On to the last problem. Is my absolute value by itself? In this case, my absolute value is not by itself. It's being multiplied by 3. So I need to divide by 3 to start with. That would leave me with the absolute value of b minus 2 is equal to 8. So from here, I can take the absolute value of b minus 2 could equal 8. So I take b minus 2 is equal to 8. And b minus 2 is equal to negative 8. Add 2. Add 2. b would equal 10. Add 2. Add 2. And b is equal to negative 6. The last thing I want to talk about real quick, we did not see one with an expression inside the absolute value, but let's just go ahead and look at one. What if I had 2a minus 4 inside the absolute value is equal to negative 10? Could I ever put anything in for a to make the absolute value equal to negative 10? I cannot. The absolute value just means that it is the distance from 0. Well, a distance from 0 will not be negative, because even on the number line, even if I make a number line and call this 0, this is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. This is 1, 2, and 3. Even on a number line, the distance from 0, even if I'm talking about this point here, the distance is still 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks, 3 tick marks away. So it would be 3 is my distance. Okay? That is what absolute value is looking at, is just the distance from 0. So it can never be a negative number. An absolute value can never turn into a negative number. Remember, we want to get the absolute value by itself. Then we will set it equal to the positive version and the negative version of the other side of the equal sign. And then we can solve for our variable. If you have any questions from this lesson, please make sure you ask. Thank you very much for watching the video, and have a great day.